Howdy, hi, hello. Welcome to the very first episode of Biz and Chill. I'm so excited to be here. I'm your host Nene, and this is going to be a video series, podcast, whatever you want to call it, where I talk about entrepreneurs and businesses through their books, their autobiographies, whatever. And I'll try to sprinkle in a little bit of economic and business and finance knowledge. Because I find that, one, this is like a little personal reading diary to me. And two, I find that people learn a lot better through real experiences and not just through theory. Because theory is obviously it's a basis, but I can also find that reading um, real business cases and studies are often very helpful. So, to start us off, I have a very, very special book to me. To start off with today, I think the author did a wonderful job writing it. He was a very successful entrepreneur, and I think you will all know this brand. Today we are reading, or at least we're covering, the first chapter of Sam Walton's Made in America. This is his autobiography. And this was published way, way, way back. So I'm not sure how many years back exactly, but I know it was like a while back. So let's get started. I hope you're settled in with like a drink or like blankets. It's gonna be a very light. Um, these are gonna be very light episodes. I'm gonna try to keep them on the shorter side. So buckle up and let's get started. So Sam Walton was born in 1918 in Kingfisher, Oklahoma, during one of America's most trying times, the Great Depression. He was moved around frequently due to his father's various jobs. So he would be in Springfield by the time he could remember things. He would be in Marshall, he would be in Shelbina and Columbia, Missouri. His father, his name is Thomas Gibson Walton. He worked multiple jobs. He and the listed ones are banker, farmer, farm loan appraiser, insurance agent, and real estate agent. Very impressive jobs, to be honest. It's a very impressive resume. And he was noted by Sam to be a great negotiator. Though he also said that, Sam also said that he was sometimes embarrassed by how low his offers were. And Sam also notes that he never really had the talent for negotiating. He couldn't like squeeze every dollar out of it. But he says that his brother Bud, inherited that talent. So, during a few of the worst years of the Depression, so that's around 1929 to 1931, his father was working as like a repossessor. I'm not quite sure. I guess it's a farm loan appraiser. Um, his father had to repossess hundreds of farms from families who couldn't pay their loans. Some of these families had owned their property for and land for like generations. So obviously this is a pretty traumatic experience, right? Like I mean, I don't think anyone would like seeing people like get their stuff taken away. And this shaped Mr. Sam Walton's understanding of financial vulnerability, and because his family was working like constantly. He mentioned in the book that while they weren't poor, they had to work to make ends meet. So for example, his mother owns a little milking business. He said that he would have to milk the cows and like carry them over to football practice so he could sell that milk to like the players, I assume. So he learns the value of hard work and the value of the dollar from a very young age. So at 7 years old, or around that time, he started selling magazine subscriptions, and he maintained paper routes from the seventh grade onwards all through college, and this helped him develop a sense of discipline and reliability. Um, he sold rabbits and pigeons as he raised them. He said it was really popular or common during the time. I didn't know this actually. I think it's a very cool, not cool. I think it's a very odd practice. I don't see a lot of people doing that nowadays. So I guess that's a good thing. There's also the matter of ethical breeding, but that's not what we're here to get into. So first business concept we're gonna touch on. We can see very early on, Mr. Sam Walton had to see like multiple revenue streams coming in. So even as like a child, he understood not to rely on just one source of income. So this could, yeah, this is just translate into multiple revenue streams. He also learned that you didn't need too many sophisticated products because I often see sometimes when I'm in class and we're in like marketing, my friends will try to come up with increasingly sophisticated products when sometimes all you really need is simple service that people will really appreciate. On that note, let's move on because this is we have to get on move on. Um, all through chapter one, it's very clearly seen that Mr. Sam Walton has a very conservative way of spending money. Even later on, when he was already a billionaire or a multi-billionaire, I guess, he didn't just spend his money, and that developed from his childhood, from in the Great Depression. As a kid, he said children were expected to be contributors rather than they just takers. So essentially, mean they had to also put food on the table. The Waltons, as I read through the first chapter, they're very frugal, I would say. They don't really like to flaunt their wealth. I think that's a pretty good thing. Living all below your means is always a good option to have like a steady supply of money to just keep it in like a safe place where if there is emergency, they can just easily not worry about it. Also, this frugality is also seen through Walmart's business practices. So if you like read later on the chapters, and then even at the end of this chapter, he very clearly says every dollar less spent is every dollar more spent is a dollar that comes out of our customer's pocket, and we intend to not let that happen, as that will lag us behind the competition. I think that's a very insightful thing to say, but let me know how you feel. So, later on in life, after this, in the 1950s, Helen Walton's father, so that's his wife, Ellis Robson, was a successful rancher, and he was also a businessman who organized his operations as a family partnership. Um, all of the Robson's family members, including Mr. Sam's wife Helen and her brothers, took turns managing the branch books and participated as partners. So, needless to say, the family overall was very financially savvy. Um, she had earned a BS in finance, something unusual for a woman in that era. Though I'm glad we've come a long way from then. And this demonstrates the Robsons' commitment to financial education. And by 1953, the Waltons also adopted this model. They created the Walton Enterprises as a family partnership, and then they later became incorporated. Um, so by now, we're just going to move on past his childhood, as we'll be getting through all the fun business stuff. But by 1985, Mr. Sam Walton was declared the richest man in America, and this created unwanted media attention towards his family. He very vehemently protested against this in the book. He The reporters apparently expected a lavish lifestyle. I mean, I assume that's only fair since he had billions and billions of dollars, but this irked Mr. Sam Walton very much. Um, Instead, they found Mr. Sam Walton driving an old pickup truck with cages in the back for his bird dogs, or like I'm assuming those are hunting dogs. Wearing a Walmart cap and getting haircuts from a local barber shop. I do not quite know what they were expecting with the haircut. I don't know. It's noted by Mr. Walton himself that where do they expect me to get my haircuts? So I understand that, and it's also he also says that that he didn't understand why they didn't expect him to be driving a pickup truck. He specifically says, "How else do they expect me to carry my dogs, haul around my dogs?" In a Rolls Royce. So I think his way of writing is very casual. It's very like he's speaking to you, and I think it's very entertaining. I highly recommend the book. But moving on. So later on, after the Waltons received media coverage, they started to receive requests from strangers worldwide asking for money for houses, cars, vacations, and dental work. One time, Mr. Walton mentions this. A person wrote to him asking for $100,000 to buy a house they wanted, to which he very reasonably denied. I mean, it's just a random request for money. So by 1987, so this is 2 years later, the stock market crashed and reduced Walmart's value. I'm pretty sure if you study business, you might have studied that time because I believe it was a pretty big crash. Um, and Mr. Sam Walton famously said, "It's only paper," and that was to losing $500 million. And the press had a field day with that. The Walton family at that time, and still to this day, I believe, owned their wealth primarily in Walmart stock rather than diversifying into luxury assets. So that's very significant. Um, I think it's around 38% at the time of his writing. It might have grown by now, but at the writing of his book, and Miss Helen only owned about 20% of the family's total Walmart interest, with the rest distributed among their children through the family partnership. Let me just talk about this for a second. I feel like he understands long term value creation. I mean, he's a very successful businessman. I would assume that. He understands that the stock price fluctuations don't change the underlying business value, and that helps maintain his focus on operations rather than the market sentiment. Um, During the entirety of this book, he said he's very focused on Walmart's quality and its customer service. So we'll be seeing a lot of that later on. So, later continuing on, he talks about his operational frugality. It's very extreme. And I don't know if you knew this, but Walmart didn't buy a corporate jet until reaching $40 billion and expanding to California and Maine. The executives shared hotels rooms on business trips. They stayed at Holiday Inn, Ramada Inn, and Days Inn rather than luxury hotels. Um, I believe they shared like two people per room. In like the book, there's a quote that says they said they shared like 8 person per room. So it's very clear that his upbringing did affect how he spends his money, both personally and in work situations. It said in the book that Mr. Sam continued flying commercial and borrowed $20 from the executive when he forgot his wallet. So again, it's just he's a very frugal man, and I respect that a lot because he has billions and billions of dollars, right? It's a very good mindset to have, I believe, because like underspending is always better than overspending, because then you don't have any loans or debts or um anything that'll put you into financial ruin. um Mr. Walton actually says himself in the book that he's seen that splurging on like luxury items like selling your socks out will often lead to the company being taken over, and he says he does not want that to happen. And he notably notes that if any of his grandchildren or great grandchildren or great grandchildren try to do that, he will come back and personally haunt them. I think it's just it's very funny. He has also a very customer centric money philosophy coming along with his frugality. So he says every time Walmart spends $1 foolishly, it comes right out of our customers' pockets. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase from any business book I've ever read. I've read a few autobiographies, but I've never heard a line quite like that. So I'm excited to see where that will go. Um, he also says every time we save them a dollar, that puts us one more step ahead of the competition. So yeah, it's very reflective of his worldview on how to spend money and his valuation of money, essentially. It's just I think he values giving the customers a good experience and staying on top of the game more than actually like gaining the money itself. I feel like he just sees it as kind of like byproduct of being on top of the game. Mr. Sam's models for lifestyle reinforce the company's value proposition. Oh, this is very interesting. So, if you read the first chapter, there's something, it's kind of like a throwaway line. It's not a very big main focus, but I believe it's a very good way of thinking. So, Mr. Sam Walton's definition of wealth is, and I quote, if we have enough groceries and a nice place to live, plenty of room to keep and feed my bird dogs, a place to hunt, a place to play tennis, and the means to get the kids a good education, that's rich. I just really admire that. There's a certain value to it. It's living within your means and just enjoying life, content, and with not like lavishing yourself in luxuries. I personally think it's a good way to live. Of course, if you can afford to spend it, like you can of course go ahead and spend. I just think it's a very unique way of thinking of things. But I want to know what you think in the comments. So drop by and drop down a comment. So this is just this is just a lesson life philosophy. Understanding what constitutes genuine wealth prevents the endless pursuit of more that can like really destroy business focus and family relationships. I don't know why I spent so much time focusing on this. I believe this is just really important because it contributes to your own financial literacy, right? It's not just if I make a whole bunch of money, I'm going to go borrow more and spend more of it because I've seen that happen with um a few people I know, and it's very dangerous way to live if you understand. So he's also pretty worried. I'll say that he's pretty worried about how his grandchildren will turn out. Like I by that I mean like not that they'll be bad people. It's more like he's worried that they won't try to work hard. As he says, they'll never be poor a day in their life. And he also wrote his autobiography partly to warn future generations against the foolishness with the family wealth. So yeah, he's very strongly sticking to his ideals. Um the family structure was designed to maintain Walmart stock ownership and rather than selling it for luxury consumption. So, at the time, Mr. Walton was portrayed as a eccentric recluse. He continued visiting stores and connecting with associates. That's something that he does very often. It's mentioned very often in the book, and I don't think I've ever seen like a CEO do that before. So I think it's a very interesting strategy because, of course, as you get higher up in the ladder, I guess you kind of lose touch with your consumers a little bit because you kind of see like the whole thing now. It's not just you talk face to face with your customers. It's you have to manage things from far away, and I think this is a very good way to prevent that essentially. So at first, he was very worried that he would be negatively viewed by his store associates, but his star associates actually viewed his wealth positively, as in, like, kind of in a look, we helped him get their way. Good for him. It's very sweet. Um, his visits to stores became more meaningful to the employees after his fame, and of course, he also notes that the customers also got a kick out of it. Like they got to like have him sign his their note banks and stuff. Um, there's another display of his frugality in here, or his value of the dollar. So both Sam and his brother Bud would pick up a penny from the street, like just on the sidewalk. For example, a photographer once tested Mr. Samuelson by throwing a nickel on an airport tarmac. Despite the planes leaving and taking off, Mr. Sam Walton, while slightly disgruntled, immediately noticed it and asked if he should stand on it for the photo. He was disgruntled mainly because he had to pose for another photo, but he still came back. So it shows that like the small things reflects their attitude. So the willingness to value small amounts of like anything indicates the mental like discipline necessary for a large scale success. Mostly this chapter was um about his mindset. For he's very attentive to details, and I believe that's one of the reasons Walmart became so successful in the first place. Cause I find that leaders who notice and care about like the little things, like the little inefficiencies that most people would maybe like me would disregard, like, oh, this is kind of slow, but whatever, it's not that long. This can create cultures that optimize everything, and eventually that culture becomes very beneficial for the company in the future. So this is the first chapter. While we didn't cover many economic concepts, sadly, I still think it's very notable for being a very like a very clear insight. There we go. A clear insight into how Mr. Sam Walton sees things. And I believe there's things to be learned here, like the attention to detail, the frugality, though I'm not sure how extreme you're willing to take it. While feel like he's very extreme with it, I still understand where he's coming from. And his humbleness, essentially. While he says he's not ashamed of being rich, he's okay with that. he says he doesn't feel the need to flaunt it, and I think that's a very that's very nice. So that was chapter 1, essentially. Not too heavy, I hope. Well, I think this was very fun. So I'll see you in the next few days for chapter 2. Let me go read this. Bye bye!